Forest held its breath, and then chaos erupted. A deer bounded through the undergrowth, muscles taut, eyes wide with terror. From the shadows Ethan lunged, his young frame awkward yet fierce, hunger gnawing at every nerve. Leaves tore beneath his paws as adrenaline roared louder than his heartbeat. Marcus growled, "Stay close, boy. Strike swift or starve." The elder's voice carried the weight of survival's law, and Ethan's chest heaved with both fear and determination. Thunder rolled above as a storm brewed, lightning clawing across the black sky. In that single moment, life was stripped of mercy. The prey's scream cut the air, its hooves crashing against earth and stone. Ethan snapped forward, but hesitation slowed him. Marcus snarled, his fangs bared like fate itself. The law of the wild was absolute. One kill meant survival, one failure meant hunger. Tonight, blood or emptiness would define the pack. The chase tore through the storm-soaked forest, branches whipping across fur and skin alike. Ethan pushed harder, lungs burning, but every step reminded him of his inexperience. Marcus snapped, "Do not falter now." The elder's voice cut through the thunder, his warning heavier than the storm. The deer darted between trees, swift and desperate, its hooves sparking bursts of mud. Ethan's teeth clashed against empty air, hunger gnawing stronger than pain. Lightning split the sky again, illuminating his trembling frame. For an instant, Ethan saw both triumph and failure flicker before him. Marcus's growl thundered behind, urging destiny's path forward. Every shadow, every breath, carried the weight of survival. Tonight, hesitation would carve hunger into their bones, or blood would write their salvation into the soil. The forest itself turned against them. Roots slick with water tripped Ethan's paws, sending him stumbling. He recovered quickly, breath ragged, but the deer widened its lead. Marcus roared, "Steady, focus." His words crashed harder than thunder. Hunger clamped down like iron, forcing Ethan to rise again. The storm raged, tearing branches, drowning the world in a sheet of chaos. Each step felt heavier, as if the earth itself tested his will. Ethan's chest ached, but his eyes refused surrender. Ahead, the deer faltered briefly, her hooves sliding across wet stone. The moment screamed opportunity, but fear rooted him still. Marcus's growl shook the trees. This was no trial, no lesson. This was life stripped bare. Kill or be consumed by hunger's unrelenting void. Ethan forced his trembling paws forward. The deer, weakened by exhaustion, limped through the storm. Her breath came in harsh bursts, misting in the cold air. Ethan's ears twitched at Marcus's words. Now is the moment. Strike or lose all. Fear and hunger clashed inside him like lightning tearing the sky. His body quivered, young muscles rebelling against instinct. The forest blurred around him, trees bending in the storm, ground slick and merciless. The deer's eyes flashed, terror mirrored in their shine as she staggered one step too slow. Ethan's heart hammered in his chest, louder than thunder. He lunged, but doubt shadowed his strike. Marcus's snarl roared behind, pushing him beyond hesitation. This was not a hunt, it was the breaking point between life and starvation. The forest held its silence for a heartbeat, broken only by the storm's fury. Ethan's jaws snapped shut, teeth clashing against nothing but rain. The deer escaped his grasp, vanishing deeper into the storm. Marcus's howl tore through the night, raw fury mixed with despair. "You failed us," his voice bled into the rain. Ethan's chest heaved, shame carving into his bones deeper than hunger. The pack's survival slipped further away, their stomachs destined to ache through the night. The storm howled louder, mocking their struggle. Ethan stared at his trembling paws, each drop of rain a reminder of what was lost. Marcus's eyes burned through him, not with hatred, but with a truth sharper than claws. Failure tonight meant the pack starved. That weight pressed into Ethan's soul, heavier than the storm itself. The storm eased, but hunger did not. Ethan lay on the ridge, body trembling, ears twitching with every rustle in the dark. His stomach gnawed at him, sharp as claws. Marcus stood firm beside him, scars glistening with rain, his breath heavy but unbroken. Marcus said, "You hesitate, and the pack suffers." His tone held no cruelty, only survival's truth. Below, the pack huddled in the hollow of rocks, their ribs showing, their eyes tired with waiting. Each whimper of the pups carved deeper wounds in Ethan's chest. He whispered, "I tried, Marcus." The elder's gaze burned, but softened with a flicker of weary pride. "Trying is not enough, boy. You must become more than fear. You must become hunger itself." Ethan lowered his head, the weight of his pack's lives pressing into his heart like stone. The hollow echoed with whines of hunger. Sarah, a female wolf, nudged her two pups closer, their frail bodies pressing against her side. Their eyes wide and pleading, stabbed deeper than any rival's fang. Ethan watched, torn between shame and determination. Sarah whispered, "They cannot wait another night." Her voice quivered with fear, but also with quiet defiance. Marcus turned his head away, unwilling to show the pain that gnawed at even his hardened soul. Ethan stepped closer, trembling as he breathed the scent of weakness, the cruel reminder of his failure. His throat tightened, but his chest swelled with silent resolve. Tonight had broken him, yet tomorrow could rebuild him. For the first time, he felt not only the hunger in his belly, but the responsibility of lives depending on him. Marcus moved to the edge of the hollow, his gaze fixed on the storm's fading horizon. His chest rose with the weight of years, memories etched into his scars. He said, "I've lost more hunts than I can count, Ethan. Failure is not the end. Surrender is." His voice carried like the wind over stone. Ethan's ears twitched, torn between defiance and hope. "But what if I fail again?" His question broke like a pup's whimper, yet beneath it burned a spark. Marcus's amber eyes narrowed, not with anger but with the weight of truth. "Then you rise again, and again, until the forest bends or breaks you." Silence wrapped them, as thunder faded into distant rumble. Ethan's body remained small and uncertain, but inside, his resolve grew sharper than his fangs. The pups whimpered again, their cries twisting into Ethan's heart like barbed wire. Sarah pressed closer to them, eyes glistening with despair. She said, "If the hunt fails again, they will not see another dawn." The words struck Ethan harder than Marcus's growl. He stepped closer, staring at the fragile life pressed into Sarah's fur. The weight of his first hunt had been his pride, but now it was survival carved into blood. His chest swelled with a promise unspoken, but his eyes revealed it all. Marcus studied him, reading the silent vow. "Your fear is their hunger. Your courage is their chance." Ethan lowered his head once more, not in shame but in acceptance. His first failure had been his own, but the next trial belonged to them all. The night grew still as the storm drifted farther, leaving only dripping branches and trembling earth. Ethan curled at the hollow's edge, sleepless eyes fixed on the horizon. He whispered, "Tomorrow, I will not fail." His words carried no roar, but their quiet weight anchored the hollow in fragile hope. Marcus exhaled, a sound between a growl and a sigh. The elder closed his eyes, trusting instinct to finish what scars had begun. Sarah tucked her pups tighter, her gaze flicking to Ethan with something between fear and faith. Hunger still gnawed, the storm still threatened, yet for the first time, a spark glimmered in the hollow's darkness. Ethan's failure had not ended the story. It had written the beginning of his true hunt. The forest stirred with new threats as dawn broke through heavy clouds. Ethan's paws sank into mud, his ribs aching with hunger. Marcus moved ahead, silent but sharp, his amber eyes scanning the mist. Sarah trailed with the pups, their faint whine slicing through the cold air. Ethan whispered, "We cannot last another day without food." His words trembled, but resolve flared beneath them. Marcus growled, "The forest does not wait. The weak perish. We must strike soon." A crow screeched above, its black wings cutting against the gray sky. The deer trail they followed grew faint, washed by the storm's wrath. Yet every scent carried urgency, a promise of either life or slow starvation. Ethan's chest rose with fear and fire, his first hunt already lost, but his second pulling him toward the edge of destiny. The deer trail vanished, swallowed by stormwater. Marcus halted, his nose lifted to the wind. He snarled, "Others hunt here." The scent was sharp, foreign. Ethan's heart raced, the air heavy with danger. From the shadows, a rival's howl cut across the valley, low, guttural, filled with hunger. Ethan shivered, ears twitching, eyes darting through the trees. Sarah pressed the pups tighter, her body trembling though her gaze held steady. Ethan whispered, "Lena." The name rolled from his tongue like dread. She was no stranger, but a lone wolf hardened by desperation. Marcus growled, "She will not yield. She hunts for blood, same as us." The forest grew colder, silence pressing between thunder's echoes. Hunger no longer was their only enemy, rival jaws now waited in the mist. The rival's scent thickened with every step. Ethan's legs quivered, but his chest swelled with defiance. Marcus spoke low, "She will test you. Fear feeds her strength." His words carved into Ethan's heart like claws. Sarah whispered, "She hunts for her own. Remember that." The truth stung. Lena was desperate, not evil. Ethan growled softly, "If I falter, the pack starves." The forest darkened as clouds swallowed the dawn, branches snapping under unseen weight. Lena's howl pierced again, closer now, carrying the echo of starvation and challenge. The pups whimpered, their small cries rattling Ethan's bones. Marcus's eyes burned, urging courage. The forest held its breath, two paths colliding, one wolf learning to rise, another fighting to survive. Both driven by hunger's cruel grip. Lena stepped forward, her body gaunt yet fierce, teeth glinting in broken light. Her growl rolled low, echoing hunger's edge. Ethan's body tensed, his first true test no longer prey but rival. Marcus barked, "Stand firm, boy." His command lashed like thunder. Sarah pressed her muzzle into the pups, shielding their eyes from the storm of fangs. Ethan's breath came in sharp bursts, fear colliding with duty. He whispered, "If I fall, they fall with me." His claws dug into the soil, his stance shaky but unyielding. Lena's eyes burned, but beneath them flickered the desperation of a mother fighting for her own brood. The forest seemed to close tighter, branches whispering the law of nature. No mercy, only survival. The forest erupted as Lena lunged, teeth flashing. Ethan stumbled but met her halfway, jaws clashing in sparks of fury. His body trembled under her strength, yet instinct roared louder than fear. Marcus barked, his voice a thunderclap, "Fight, Ethan!" The ground tore beneath their struggle, mud and rain spraying. Sarah whimpered, pulling her pups closer. Lena snarled, eyes blazing with her own desperation. Ethan's chest heaved, muscles burning, but he refused to yield. Hunger's law gave him no choice. He snapped back, catching fur, his first strike trembling yet real. Lena reeled, not from defeat but from surprise. The forest howled with their clash, a storm of survival breaking open. For the first time, Ethan felt both the terror and power of becoming a true hunter. The clash slowed, breath turned ragged, and truth cut sharper than teeth. Ethan pinned Lena briefly, his jaws trembling over her throat. Her eyes burned not with malice, but with desperation. She growled, "My pups starve too." The words froze Ethan's heart mid-beat. Marcus barked, "Strike her down, she will take what is ours." But Ethan's gaze lingered on the raw bones showing beneath Lena's fur, the faint scent of milk on her breath. Sarah gasped behind him, her eyes wide with recognition. Hunger was no rival's weapon. It was the same chain dragging them all. Ethan hesitated, his body torn between instinct and mercy. Marcus snarled, "Hesitation will kill us all." Yet in Lena's trembling eyes, Ethan saw himself reflected, fragile, desperate, clinging to survival. Ethan pulled back slightly, his chest heaving. Lena rolled to her side, not lunging but coughing weakly, her ribs straining with every breath. She whispered, "I have too. They wait, dying. The words struck the hollow of silence like thunder. Marcus barked, "Do not listen, hunger has no mercy." Yet Sarah stepped forward, her body trembling, but her voice steadier than ever. "She is us, Marcus. Her fight is ours reflected." Ethan's ears twitched, torn between two truths, the law of survival and the bond of shared struggle. He said, "If her pups die, their cries will echo ours." The forest seemed to lean in, judging its shadows still and listening. In the raw dawn, survival no longer looked like victory. It looked like sacrifice bound in shared hunger. Marcus's growl thundered through the clearing. "This is weakness, Ethan. The forest spares none." His scars gleamed under the damp light, every word a command forged in survival's law. Ethan stepped forward, voice low but steady. "If we kill her, 2 pups die with her." Marcus's eyes blazed with anger. Sarah spoke softly, "And what lesson do we teach if hunger makes us devour all bonds?" The pups whimpered behind her, small sounds piercing the still air. Lena raised her head, her gaze hollow yet fierce. "I fight not to steal. I fight to keep them alive." Ethan trembled, but held Marcus's gaze. For the first time, he stood not as a failing pup, but as a wolf facing the weight of choice heavier than any kill. The forest whispered with silence, the storm gone but its weight lingering. Marcus growled, "Hunger takes all mercy, the strong endure." Ethan's voice cut against his, raw and unsteady but burning. "Mercy is strength when death already surrounds us." Sarah's eyes widened, pride flickering behind fear. Lena's body shook as she struggled to stand, her breath shallow, her eyes locked on Ethan's. For a heartbeat, predator and rival faded, leaving only 2 wolves bound by the same desperate truth. Marcus bared his teeth, but the fire in Ethan's gaze did not falter. The elder's silence carved deeper than his snarl. Ethan had chosen, not by instinct, but by will. The forest no longer held just hunger, it held a fragile seed of something different. The clearing breathed again, the forest releasing its held breath. Marcus turned away, his silence heavier than rage. Sarah sighed, her body trembling as relief softened her stance. Ethan stepped back, his chest rising with the weight of choice. Lena staggered upright, her thin frame barely holding. She whispered, "The forest will not remember mercy, but my pups will." Her words fell like quiet stones in the silence. Ethan met her eyes and saw not a rival, but another survivor carved by the same hunger. The pack behind him stirred, their ribs still empty, yet their hearts heavier with meaning. Marcus's shadow lingered, his eyes unreadable, but he did not strike. The forest held its judgment, quiet and absolute. For the first time, Ethan had shaped survival not with fangs, but with choice. The forest erupted with movement as dawn shattered into full light. Ethan stalked the ridge, nose twitching at the scent of deer rising through damp air. Hunger carved fire into his chest. Marcus growled, "This is the moment. Fail, and we starve." Ethan's body trembled, but no longer with fear, it was urgency. Sarah pressed her muzzle into her pups, whispering prayers in silence. Lena's weak frame lingered nearby, her eyes watching with wary faith. The trail glistened fresh, hooves carved deep in mud. Ethan whispered, "I will not falter again." His paws pressed into the soil, each step a vow. The pack moved behind him, shadows in unity. The forest seemed to wait, branches still, the weight of survival pressing like stone. The deer herd grazed in the meadow ahead, their coats glistening under the sun's return. Ethan froze, every muscle coiled. Marcus whispered, "Patience is the hunter's first weapon." Sarah's gaze lingered on him, filled with silent hope. The pups whimpered softly, their hunger gnawing the silence. Lena limped closer, her eyes narrowing at the sight of prey, but holding back. Ethan's claws gripped earth, his breath shallow yet sharp. He whispered, "Now, I must become hunger." His heart pounded, louder than the meadow's rustle. The deer lifted their heads, ears twitching, danger prickling the air. The moment balanced like a blade between triumph and collapse. Ethan's world narrowed into one truth: strike true or starve. The first deer bolted, hooves thundering. Ethan launched forward, his legs pumping with fierce rhythm. Marcus thundered beside him, growling commands through snarls. Faster! Drive them! The herd scattered, panic tearing the meadow apart. Ethan's eyes locked on a young doe struggling to keep pace. His breath seared his throat, his paws tearing earth. Sarah barked faintly behind, her voice trembling with both fear and faith. Lena's shadow streaked across the grass, drawn by instinct she could not deny. Ethan whispered through gritted teeth, "Not this time." His stride lengthened, muscles screaming, claws tearing soil. The chase became fire in his veins, every heartbeat driving him closer to his fate. The doe faltered, stumbling across uneven ground. Ethan lunged, jaws snapping at empty air as mud sprayed beneath them. Marcus barked again. "Strike again!" The meadow shook with thunder of hooves, the herd breaking into chaos. Ethan's chest screamed with exhaustion, but his eyes burned with fire. He whispered, "I will not lose them." Lena snarled close by, her teeth flashing, but Ethan shoved past her, refusing to yield. Sarah howled faint encouragement, her voice trembling with hope. The doe stumbled again, weaker now, breath heaving, eyes wide with terror. Ethan's fangs glistened as instinct overtook fear. Hunger roared in his veins like fire through the storm. Time shattered into fragments. Ethan lunged with every ounce of strength, his jaws closing on the doe's flank. Her scream ripped the meadow apart as blood sprayed across his muzzle. Marcus howled, triumph, the sound tearing through dawn like thunder. Lena skidded to a halt, eyes wide with fury and awe. Sarah cried out, relief breaking through her trembling body. The pups squeaked, their hunger already sensing salvation. Ethan's chest heaved, his body shaking as his first true kill held firm beneath him. He whispered, voice trembling, "We will eat tonight." The meadow grew still, silence broken only by the dying breaths of prey. Hunger bowed to survival. Ethan had crossed the line into the wolf he was meant to become. The meadow lay still, broken only by the last shivers of the fallen dew. Ethan stood over her, chest heaving, eyes wide with the weight of what he had done. Marcus raised his muzzle and howled, a sound of triumph and sorrow interwoven. Sarah pressed her pups close, relief flooding her body as their hunger neared its end. Lena lingered at the edge, her eyes locked on the kill, torn between need and restraint. Ethan whispered to himself, "Life given for life taken." His voice shook with reverence. The forest was not cruel nor kind, only absolute. The dew's sacrifice rippled across them all, a truth older than fangs. Marcus lowered his head, nodding once. "This is the cost, Ethan. Never forget." The pack gathered, their ribs sharp, but their eyes alive again. Ethan stepped back, allowing Sarah to guide the pups toward the kill. Their tiny jaws tore clumsily, whimpers melting into relief. Sarah's eyes glistened, gratitude flickering as she whispered, "You saved them." Ethan lowered his head, unsure whether pride or guilt weighed heavier. Marcus circled the carcass, his gaze sharp and unblinking. "Remember this hunger, boy. It returns always." His words cut deeper than the wind. Ethan felt the truth anchor in his chest. Survival was no victory, only a reprieve. Yet tonight his pack would live. Lena's paws shifted, her eyes hollow with hunger, her ribs stark beneath her black coat. Ethan met her gaze, the unspoken question burning between them. Marcus snarled, "She is not of us. Leave her to starve." But Sarah's voice cut gently, "She carries mouths to feed as I do." Ethan stepped forward, his body trembling but steady, and dragged a torn flank of meat toward Lena. Marcus growled in fury, but the elder's silence followed when Ethan spoke. "If survival demands sacrifice, then mercy is no weakness." Lena's eyes widened, and for the first time gratitude softened her sharp edge. Lena tore into the meat, not with joy but with desperate silence. Blood streaked her muzzle as her body shook with relief. Ethan stood nearby, watching her with quiet resolve. Marcus turned away, the elder's shadow heavy, his silence saying more than words. Sarah nuzzled her pups, her voice soft. Tonight, life endures because of choice, not claws alone. Ethan closed his eyes, the weight of the hunt pressing into his bones. His fangs had taken life, but his will had preserved it too. The forest's law had not changed, but for one heartbeat, mercy had carved a place beside survival. The meadow quieted as the sun climbed higher, burning mist into light. Ethan stood at the center, no longer just a trembling pup, but a wolf etched by survival. Marcus stared at him, unreadable, then gave a single nod, acceptance wrapped in silence. Sarah pressed her muzzle to Ethan's cheek, pride flickering in her tired eyes. Lena lifted her head from the bloodied earth, her voice raw. "My pups will live." The forest stretched endless, neither cruel nor kind, but absolute. Ethan whispered, "The pack endures." His words lingered, bound to the dawn like a vow written in blood and breath. The meadow emptied of sound, leaving only the whisper of wind through grass. Ethan stood still, his body trembling with exhaustion, yet his eyes glowed with something new. Marcus's shadow loomed beside him, not as command but as quiet recognition. Sarah curled with her pups, their bellies no longer hollow, their tiny breaths steady. Lena remained on the edge, bloodied muzzle lifted toward the sky, silent in her gratitude. Ethan whispered, "The pack endures." His words fell heavy in the dawn, not a cry but a vow. The forest listened, indifferent but eternal, carrying the echo of life through silence. The sun climbed higher, burning the last of the storm from the earth. Ethan's paws pressed into soil stained with both blood and promise. Marcus said softly, "You carry their future now." His words were not command, but recognition. Sarah's eyes lingered on Ethan, pride weaving with exhaustion. The pups stirred, playful for the first time in days, their small yelps breaking the heavy air. Lena lowered her head, silent, but her gaze clung to Ethan's choice. He whispered, "Survival is not just hunger, it is what we keep alive within us." The forest bent in light, carrying his words across the valley like a quiet oath. The pack fed until silence returned, their ribs no longer sharp against their skin. Ethan stood apart, watching Lena slip into the mist, her body frail but her steps steadier than before. She did not speak, but her lingering glance etched its truth into his bones. Marcus growled low, but not in anger, only in caution. Sarah whispered, "Sometimes survival is not victory, it is mercy." Ethan felt her words sink deep, anchoring into his spirit. His first hunt had been failure, his second triumph, but this was something beyond both. The forest remained absolute, yet Ethan had carved choice into its unyielding law. The meadow's silence stretched, broken only by the wind through tall grass. Marcus lowered his head, his scars catching morning light, his eyes no longer harsh but thoughtful. Sarah licked her pups clean, their tiny yawns piercing the quiet. Ethan whispered, "I have hunted, but I have also spared." His words trembled, yet rang with certainty. Marcus finally said, "Then you have learned more than I ever did." The weight of generations pressed into that moment, binding memory and blood. Ethan stood tall, no longer only a pup, but the wolf who carried tomorrow's burden. The pack gathered in silence, bellies filled, breaths steady. Ethan turned to the horizon, his young frame silhouetted by the rising sun. The meadow, once soaked in storm and blood, now glowed with fragile peace. He whispered, "The pack will endure even when I fall." His voice was quiet but final, sharp as stone. The forest did not answer, but its silence roared eternal. The echo of his vow clung to the air, heavier than thunder, softer than dawn. It lingered like a scar, unbroken and unforgettable.